Well, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you're lucky enough to be doing it to, I'm Bushka. And this is the FV215b 183. Put your hands up if you spent 16 million credits on this freaking thing. I've bought it, sold it, bought it, sold it, bought it. And after money back guarantees of 4 million a pop, I'm at the grand total of 16 million pieces of 8 for this. This is a patron sponsored post. Obviously, the boys and girls are loving life and living large there, the patron boys and girls. There's going to be another official sponsors video going up behind the wall on bushkaonblitz.com. The Dead Rail map review is the only one up there at the moment. There's going to be another one going up very, very shortly. Now, what is it that people love about this tank? Well, they love the derp. They love the massive, massive derp. And I hated the tank originally because the derp was non-existent. You would run this tank, it would do next to nothing for you. The gun handling was absolutely abysmal. The powers that be at Wargaming in patch 2.4 changed that, and they nutted the aim time down from 3.4 seconds to 3 seconds flat, which is a better than 10% change. And even better, they changed the bloom on turret traverse from 0.4 to 0.2. Now that 50% drop in penalty for traversing the turret meant that you could actually fire this thing and not get suckered by a huge big bloom going as big as your screen. And with a few perks, an enhanced gun lane drive, some vents, and a rammer, as well as running rations, this thing's gun handling, while not great, will occasionally work very, very nicely. And occasionally, it'll also do this to you. You'll see here, I'm about to look at what is an enormous easy target with just about a full bloom, and it's going to go 20 feet above it. That's just how it goes. It's that kind of gun. And then other times, you'll be looking at a T-54 in the cap circle, behind the buildings, behind a train, where there's a tiny little gap between the engine and the tracks of the locomotive, and you'll hit him in the back of the turret. The gun is so troll it hurts, but it is fantastic, it's fun, it does enormous amounts of damage, and if you set it up and let the tanks drive into the reticle, boy oh boy will they feel the pain. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. What else can I say? The tank is a great giggle. Let's talk a little bit about that alpha. 930 is your average alpha on AP rounds. Now, your AP rounds also have a fantastic amount of penetration, 310 millimeters of pen. Great stuff. Your HE rounds or your HESH rounds, your average alpha is 1300. But even on your premium ammunition, which is the HESH, the maximum amount of penetration you're going to do is 220. There's a few keys to this tank. And look, I'm not going to preach it because I'm not the best driver of this tank at all. In fact, I've been running it about 60% since I rebought it, and it's been belting my win rate. But here's the thing. It is so much fun to run, and it is hilarious now that they've fixed the gun handling. You can at least pull off the occasional snapshot, even if you do also get the occasional banana come out the end of the turret and just hit the ground. That high explosive squash head or HESH, which is basically just for your purposes is high explosive with 220 millimeters of penetration, can do 1600 damage sometimes, and you do more ammo racks, you set more tanks on fire because you have an enormous big caliber shell. Now there's a couple of things you need to know about this tank, particularly the gun. 0.40 dispersion, 3-second aim time. It's legit for real aim time. It takes ages. But more important than that is the play style. It may take some getting used to for you guys, particularly those of you who are a little bit mad YOLO, because you really have to stay alive and set shots up. You only get 2.7 rounds a minute. If you can hit twice with an AP shell, you're going to average about 2,000 damage. If you can hit twice with a HESH shell, you're going to average 2,600 damage. I mean, I'll have so many games in this tank where I'll do 4.5k, and then a heap of games where I'll do 900, because you just can't get to the enemy. They're all dead, or your whole team's dead. And the reason I have an issue with it carrying, and the reason I say buyer beware on this, is because it's an exceptionally good tank when in platoon, but when solo, my goodness, you're in trouble. Everyone wants to kill you. Everyone, even people who don't know how to play the game very well, who've been hit by this tank before, recognize how dangerous it is, and it becomes the prime target of just about every single enemy tank that is going around. And with good reason, because you're the kind of tank that if they leave you till last and you get 4 or 5 shots off, that's like 5,000 damage. I mean, it literally, you do not want to be letting this tank run hands-free on its weapon system. With that in mind, it works best when played with a good platoon mate who can support you and watch out for you like Path did there. He saved me there, and then in turn I managed to bring home the derp for him. And you'll see here there's a couple of times people just YOLO at you as well. I'm with Agon here, he's in an IS-7, and that's one lovely thing about playing this tank at Tier X. It works beautifully well with a big angry heavy. Now you can see there's an IS-7, he's YOLOing around here. We'll just set the shot up. Always try and aim a little bit ahead, lead your shot so that they walk into it, even though we missed that one. And the other thing that you'll quite often need to do is tell people when you're on a reload, because it helps your team. Look at this guy. He's still trying to hit me. He's had to settle for Agon in the end, but he's still desperately trying to get into me. And there you go. So a few big quick tips on this tank. Try not to shoot targets that are under 500 hit points. Leave them for your teammates if possible. If there's anyone around you that has an average roll of say 400 to 500, like the IS-7 or an IS-4 or something, and they're on about that average roll, and there's another target that's a bigger hit point pool, you might just want to hit the other target, because the worst thing about this tank is if you fire shots to take out 10 and 20 and 30 hit point targets, really low roll targets, and then you've got no one coming, you're going to get charged. People realize that this tank has such a huge long reload because you're only doing 2.73 rounds a minute. But you can roll 1,000 damage on your AP rounds, so save it for those kind of targets. Like you're going to see here, there's a T110E4 who's going to push up on my right, and we're going to YOLO straight back, start turning to the right in just a second, and again, lead the target. Let them walk into the shot. There you go. Nice roll, in excess of 1,000. That's a high roll for AP, but it's not the highest. In fact, the best thing about this tank is if you're working platoon with someone else and you both focus fire a target, your average double tap with an IS-7, and this is going to be around 1,500 damage on an AP round, or 1,400 to 1,500, which means that if you can both get shots on the same target at the same time, like Agon and I are doing here, you can clear the deck really, really quickly. And it is an agile tank. It's 34 kilometers an hour top speed and 32 degrees of track traverse. It also has 16 degrees of turret traverse. You're going to see I'm using Hesh here, right near that open slot on the side of the Object 268's gun. High explosive, it's great like that. If you fire it next to an area that it will penetrate, you'll get a lot of splash damage round to that as well. So always a good idea to do that. Now, the reason the tank works is because of that bloom fix. The bloom on the Traverse, you might remember if you've watched my previous 183 review titled Much Disappoint. The bloom on the Traverse killed the tank. Every time you move the turret at all, it had this enormous coefficient and it would go as big as the screen again immediately. And changing that from 0.4 to 0.2, effectively halving that penalty on the bloom, made it possible to reliably hit shots if you let the reticle settle and you gave it a chance. You could move the tank around, you could take the occasional semi-snapshot, that kind of thing. You could set shots up. The bloom on Traverse killed it. It just goes to show they know a lot more about tanking than we do, because I called for a buff to the gun handling. There was no doubt about it. I absolutely called for a buff to the gun handling. But, I mean, they got the numbers right, because the tank works now. And it's not overpowered, it just works. When it's in a great situation like this, it is overpowered. What you're going to find here, and this is the typical good 183 game. Now this isn't a special game. You'll do a lot of 5k games in this tank. This isn't 6k, it's close, but it's not there. What this is a lot of tanks in front of you, no tanks on your flank, really big heavy tank Aegon in the IS-7 there ahead of you, and space to reload, set a shot up, and let it fly. And you'll see how many times I do this. I actually get the gun ready. I don't come out until there is a shot in the pipe, and then I let it set and I let them walk into the shot. You have to have one in the pipe before you expose yourself. If you are running around, pushing, and you're on a reload, you're not going to last in this tank. You're going to go very, very poorly, and you're going to have a bad time. You'll probably sell it. Maybe. I promise not to sell this 3 times. But you can see, look at this, absolutely devastating. We're just firing 900 damage bombs down there. Aegon has baited that Type 61 out now. He's going to bait him again. You watch. He's going to go around the corner and fire, and I've got it set up. I'm waiting for that 61 to just roll forward. Aegon's going to fire. Ta-ta. Thanks for coming. And it intimidates. Intimidating, strong tank. Now, look, it's not the best win rate tank. I play much better in mediums than I do in heavies and TDs for the most part, although there are certainly exceptions to that rule for me. But what I find with this tank is exactly the same thing I find with the KV2 and the SU-152, is the derp is funny, and especially when you play with a mate. I don't think it's a great solo tank. I think it is a fantastic platoon tank, especially if you're on Discord or in a stream or having a giggle, because you just, there's a lot of fun and there's a lot of joy from doing massive damage numbers. And this is certainly a tank that can do it. So, look, I hope you like that, and I hope you take it for the spirit that it's done in. I really worked hard to get the credits to buy this tank back, and I wanted to give it another shot because so many people wanted to know about it and they wanted to get an idea on driving it. So make sure that you've always got people in front of you, you're watching your flanks, you never come out until there's a reload on, and you're ready to actually let one fly, and you're always aware that the gun will occasionally try you, and it's just going to throw stuff out there because it's 0.40 and a 3-second aim time. And you'll go for those snapshots and you're literally crossing your fingers, knowing that they don't deserve to go in, but sometimes they do. So that's it, boys and girls, the FV215b 183 Part 2. A fun tank, a very likeable tank, and a good tank if played in the right manner. Not what I would call a carry monster, but certainly what I would call a barrel of laughs. And if you're looking for an easy way to get together with your mates and do some dirt, then the 183, you can't really go past it. The gun buff made the tank. I'm Bushka on Blitz. Stay safe on the battlefield.